So is Congress going to relinquish its desire to have her come and testify now that she's no longer AG?
Well, first, let me say, this was the scenario that many Democrats, myself included, were concerned about, which is, the Republicans threatening to hold the Clintons in contempt if they didn't show up. Would they hold that same standard if it were Pam Bondi or a Republican that was subpoenaed? And now we're finding out it's unclear if the same people that subpoena Pam Bondi are willing to hold her in contempt. To be clear, she has to show up. The subpoena has nothing to do with her being Attorney General. It's her. She has to go. And so, she didn't show up at the current date. They're renegotiating maybe for a second date. But if she does not show, if she's unwilling to come, then she needs to be held in contempt. The committee needs to hold her in contempt, and then Congress will need to hold her in contempt. That's how this needs to work. Or, congressional subpoenas no longer matter. Also, this will get resolved because Robert Garcia most likely will be chair of that committee in January. So really, if she's not held in contempt in the next 5 or 6 months, she'll be held in contempt immediately in January for not showing up. That being said, the flip side of that is, look, can you blame her? Who wants to spend 4 hours with James Comer, right?
Yeah.
I don't blame her for not wanting to go and be in a basement with James for 4 hours. So, on that respect, I side with the former Attorney General.
Well, look, I think that was an astute point about the fact that they had such harsh words for the Clintons, the prospect of Hillary Clinton not coming in, even though she had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, and yet. And James Comer and these other Republicans were perfectly content to threaten contempt. And yet now you have the Attorney General who has a lawfully issued subpoena, was supposed to be there on April 14th. That date came and went. And now we haven't heard, we haven't heard James Comer utter a single word about Pam.
And Brian, we got real questions for the former Attorney General. First of all, why did you give out the binders to the influencers at the beginning of this? Then why did you say the list was on your desk? Then why did you say there was no list? Why did the administration tell all the Republicans this was a Democratic hoax and MAGA for falling for the Democratic hoax? Were you instructed to not release any of the files by the president or the White House? Why did the White House say that this was a hostile act for anyone who wanted to sign up, any Republican who wanted to sign up for the discharge petition? When when Republicans started signing that discharge petition, why did you bring some of those Republicans into the Situation Room? The place where the president goes when we're at a time of war. Why did you tell Republicans if they got their name off the discharge petition, you would put stuff in the budget for them, or you might primary them if they don't take their name off the discharge petition? Pam Bondi was supposedly in the Situation Room. Why did Kash Patel, under Pam Bondi, under oath, say that Jeffrey Epstein only trafficked girls to himself when we know, obviously, they were co-conspirators whose names were redacted? Why were those names redacted? Why were victims' names released? Why did Kash Patel say Trump's name is only in there less than 100 times when it was in there obviously more times than Harry Potter's name was in the books about Harry Potter? These are legitimate questions that she should answer under oath in a deposition. And so this is going to happen one way or another. Hopefully, the Republicans hold themselves to the same standards that they were holding themselves to a couple months ago.
Do you think it was a coincidence that Pam Bondi was unceremoniously fired from her job just 2 weeks before she was supposed to appear for this sworn deposition?
Well, look, I don't know the answer to that. My guess it's a totality of things. Same thing would happen with Kristi Noem. I think it was a totality of things. But I don't think the committee hearings for either Kristi Noem, who, couldn't say on the record whether she was, having an affair with Corey Lewandowski and, obviously blamed the president for her ad in which she gave a no-bid contract to her friends to a company that was 11 days old and, spent, $30,000 on horses. The same thing with Pam Bondi, right? Obviously the Epstein debacle that she was in charge of, and then that congressional hearing was, maybe one of the worst of the last 2 years. And so, there were other things, my guess, that were involved, but I don't think the president fired her to get her out of the depot. My guess is that there was a lot of stuff that we saw, some stuff that we didn't.
So there is a moment where Donald Trump was asked today if he believes that there should be a public hearing for the Epstein survivors. And his response was, I'm okay with that, but I understand the women didn't want to go under oath. That's what I heard, that the victims or whatever, they refused to go under oath. Your reaction to that quote?
Well, that's not true. They're showing up to the hearings. Right? A lot of them are being very public of who they are. And by the way, they don't have to come.
Right.
If we have an open invitation and a hearing and some survivors want to come and some survivors don't, it's their option. But we should provide them that opportunity. It's not mandated. We're not going to subpoena the witnesses, right? We'd invite them. And if they want to come, they can come and speak. And so if he supports them of us having a hearing to give them a time to talk to the American people, that's fantastic. It only took them 18 months to get there. But look, I hope that happens. I think that they deserve that the least Congress could offer them.
Last question on Pam Bondi. There is a world where even if and when Robert Garcia takes the chairmanship of the Oversight Committee and Pam Bondi is again subpoenaed to appear before the committee, that even if she defies her congressional subpoena, she would just kind of leave it in the hands of Todd Blanche, whoever the Attorney General is, and Donald Trump to actually prosecute her, to move that forward. It's not like Congress has...
But she can lose her bar license. Okay, so yes, if the committee would then hold her in contempt, and then Congress would hold her in contempt, obviously you would need the Department of Justice to decide to move on that. But it would start causing her problems in her private world. She would lose her bar license. So it's not without significant repercussions to her. And I also hope we don't get there. I mean, a former attorney general, right, deciding not to come and testify in a deposition to defy a subpoena of Congress. Again, I hope it doesn't get there. I hope she does the right thing, just like the Clintons did. I hope she comes and understands the Article 1 legislative authority that we have, and complies with that subpoena.
I want to change to a different topic here, and that's the feud that's exploding between Donald Trump and the Pope. And so the Pope issued a statement this morning where he said, woe to those who manipulate religion and the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain, dragging that which is sacred into darkness and filth. Do you think that is a subtweet on somebody?
Well, first of all, it's weird to see Jesus and the Pope fighting. Okay,
that's right.
I mean that's weird.
All right. Well, first of all, you might be referring to that picture of Donald Trump as a doctor, so I want to be totally fair
correct.
here. This is him as a medical professional.